Hey friends, Joe Edelmann back again with an exclusive look at an exciting new pedal from my friend the King of Gear. This is the EQ201 Preamp, and as the name and green color scheme lovingly suggest, it is an EQ and preamp pedal inspired by the beloved Roland RE201 Space Echo. His Highness of Gearness very kindly sent me this pre-production run of the pedal to demo and review, and so that's what I'll be doing here today. Sound examples are throughout the video, and so I will have timestamps in the description for you to jump about as you see fit. Before we get started, as usual, I'd like to kindly remind you to please like this video, click the subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and tap the bell to be notified when more videos like this are published. Thank you again to all of you who have subscribed, and to my longtime viewers and Patreon donors, I'm as grateful as ever for your support. While I can't yet provide the precise details on pricing and release date for this pedal, you should definitely head on over to thekingofgear.com and join his mailing list, as I believe he is planning to release a test batch at the end of this month, and depending on the demand received, enter full production in early 2023. The Roland Space Echo is a distinctive and much celebrated member of the class of vintage tape echo or delay units. Originally produced in 1974, it went through a series of numbered iterations and found its way into the hands of many famous artists, including several of the members of Radiohead. However, within the band, it is most associated with guitarist Jonny Greenwood, who has used either the vintage article or Boss's RE20 compact pedal emulation since the early days of the band. While of course Jonny has made great use of the unit's echo sound on songs like Subterranean Homesick Alien and In Limbo, he is also taking advantage of its distinct preamp section, which is always enabled and adding its own coloration to the final sound reaching his Vox AC30. This is similar in some respects to the way that previous generations of guitarists, such as Eddie Van Halen or Jimmy Page, would boost their amps using the Maestro Echoplex, which is another famous tape echo with a signature preamp sound that has also spawned several pedal imitations. The EQ201 pedal takes just the preamp section of the Space Echo and adds a bit more tweakability to it. Per the King, the core of its design are bipolar junction transistors arranged in a way to behave as a discrete op-amp, as opposed to an actual integrated circuit op-amp such as that found in the Rat distortion, for example. The original Space Echo had an input gain knob and a three-way switch for the output volume. This unit has the same gain control, but instead a continuously variable output volume knob for greater control. Additionally, the two-band bass and treble EQ, which on the Space Echo only controlled the timbre of the repeats, is added here post-preamp. It also has higher headroom than the preamp, which means that the bulk of the coloration of the pedal, namely a soft roll-off of highs and lows and a bit of transistor clipping, still comes from the preamp controls, but it allows for some flexible shaping afterwards. The Roland Space Echo also ran at 17 volts power internally. This pedal can accept either 9 or 18 volts DC center negative power, but it will internally step those voltages down to 8 or 17 volts to emulate the original. At 17 volts you get greater headroom and a cleaner, louder sound, but at 8 volts it will break up a lot faster into distortion. Overall, the preamp isn't designed to be a very smooth enhancer like the Echoplex, but at low gain settings it's certainly capable of subtle EQ and boost tones, as well as some pretty gnarly and sputtery ones at high gain. So I did mention earlier that Jonny's used a Space Echo modeler, namely the Boss RE20, since around 2007 to avoid the mechanical issues that are associated with heavily used tape units. This pedal, which I happen to also own for comparison, has its own emulation of the preamp section of the Space Echo. Interestingly enough, and as the King describes in greater detail in the article that I've linked above and in the description, while the RE20 still buffers and therefore can still clip your signal when the echo is bypassed, it does not actually add the preamp coloration in that state. Boss's newest line of Space Echo compact pedals, the RE2 and RE202, instead include a secondary function to turn on and off the preamp emulation. In my own experience with this pedal, I really loved and gravitated towards its more subtle usage. I placed it at the very end of my chain, powering it with 18 volts, keeping the gain control around 9 o'clock and the output near maximum, and then I added a little bit of bass and I cut a little bit of treble to compensate for my normal Vox AC30 settings, which can be a bit shrill or bright on the bridge pickup of many of my guitars, especially when drive pedals are added. With this setting, after sort of level matching, there was the smallest bit of extra oomph from the amp and a nice touch-sensitive breakup when I dug in harder to the guitar, which worked well as a sort of clean, dirty bass tone. That being said, I think the aggressive settings are another very useful sound similar to the console distortion type sound you hear coaxed from pedals like the JHS Color Box or the Hudson Broadcast. And the EQ is always a fantastic addition, not only in combination with the preamp settings, but as a master EQ to your final tone, whether it's feeding other drives or as the last item in your chain. Here's one final note from the King about signal buffering. The original RE201 unit wasn't designed to be used with a guitar directly. If you plug a guitar directly into the RE201 preamp, it will load down the signal and you'll lose a ton of high end. As a result, most players use buffered pedals in front of the RE201 to prevent the issue, Johnny Greenwood included. To make things easier for you, the EQ201 has an optional high-quality built-in buffer. By adjusting an internal dip switch, you can decide whether you want a clearer sound or that muddy direct input sound. But if you have any buffered or active pedals placed before the EQ201, then the EQ201's buffer won't make a difference. Thanks again to the King of Gear for providing this pedal to demo and for all the information and tools that he has gifted to us Radiohead fans over the years. Again, be sure to visit his website if you haven't already and join his mailing list to keep abreast of his latest pedal runs. Stay tuned for more videos, and as always, be well, and I will see you soon.